Hi, in this video we are going to be looking at completing the square as one of the methods used in solving quadratic equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a, b, and c are real numbers and a must not be 0, because if it is, then what we have is a linear equation. So, to make x squared plus bx a perfect square, what we have to do is to add the square of half the coefficient of x. If we look at this, the coefficient of x is b. So half of b is b divided by 2. And the square of that will be of this form. So this gives the perfect square of x squared plus bx plus b divided by 2 all squared equals to this. What this means is that we can write this in terms of this. That is, this is exactly the same as what we have here. I will come back to this in our example. So, example, solve the following quadratic equations by completing the square. So, the first one, let us have solution. So, the first one, we have x squared minus 6x minus 11 equals to 0. So, the first thing we need to consider here is to check if the coefficient of our x squared is 1, so that we are going to have this form. We want to write something of this nature, and we see that the coefficient of x squared here is 1. So naturally the coefficient of x squared here is 1, so we do not need to worry about the coefficient of x squared again. So what we do next is to write x squared minus 6x and push this guy here to the other side. And remember, this is negative 11, so coming here it becomes positive. So the next thing we do is to make use of these conditions that we have here. So to do that, so I would say step 1. So what we do is to consider the half coefficient of x. So we see that the coefficient of x is negative 6. So half coefficient of that is negative 6 divided by 2, and which is negative 3. So the next step, step 2, the next step is to consider the square of whatever we have here, which is negative 3, and that is negative 3 squared. The next step that we are going to consider now is to add this minus 3 all squared to both sides. So if we come back here, what we have is x squared minus 6x. So to this side, we are going to add. So we are going to add this negative 3 squared. Then on the other side, 11, we are going to add this square of negative 3. And now, if we look at what we have here, at this point, if we look at what we have here, then we say whenever we have expression of this nature, so it is the same thing as if we pick x then plus b by 2, everything all squared. If we open up this, we are going to have this expression. All right. So what that means is that I can say this is x, then the sign here is negative 3 all squared equals to 11. So this is minus 3 squared, which is 9, because negative square is positive. So that is 11 plus 9. So we have minus x minus 3 all squared equals to 20. Now, what we are going to do now is to say x minus 3 equals to, so you take the square root on both sides. So that is plus or minus square root of 20. And now, to find this x, we can push this negative 3 to the other side, and it becomes positive 3. Plus or minus square root of 20. So, if you can handle sort very well, sort expression, then you will note that this square root of 20 could be written as 4 times 5, which is 3 plus or minus. We can take the square root of 4, which is 2, then we have root 5. So that is what the value of x is. So our x is 3 plus 2 root 5, or 3 minus 2 root 5. That is the solution to the first problem. So the second question, so B, the second problem, we have 3x squared. We have 3x squared minus 6x minus 1 equals to 0. So the first thing we need to do again is to ensure that the coefficient of x squared is 1. However, in this situation, the coefficient is 3. So what can we do to ensure that the coefficient is 1? Well, we can divide through by 3. So which means we can have 3x squared divided by 3 minus 6x divided by 3 minus 1 divided by 3 equals to 0 divided by 3, which is 0. Now we have x squared minus 2x minus 1 by 3 equals to 0. So now we can push this to the other side, and we have x squared minus 2x equals to 1 divided by 3. So the next thing we do now is to consider the half coefficient of x, which is the coefficient of x is minus 2. Always consider the sign is minus 2. So half of that will be negative 1. So the next thing to do is to square negative 1, and that is negative 1 squared. And the last thing to do there is to add the square of that negative 1 to both sides. So what we do have now is x squared minus 2x plus negative 1 squared equals to 1 by 3 plus negative 1 squared. And now, what we do have now is, if we look at this is essentially what we had when we got to this point. And you see how we combine this to have this form. So we will do the same thing at this point, and what we do have now is x, then the sign with this number, that is negative 1 all squared, equals to 1 divided by 3 plus, again, this is -1 all squared, which becomes 1. Now, this is x minus 1 all squared equals to, where to make this easy for me to solve, I can say 1 divided by 3 plus, so this is 3 divided by 3, which is still 1. And this is 4 divided by 3. And that is x minus 1 all squared equals to 4 divided by 3. Now, what we can do is to take the square root of both sides, and we have x minus 1 equals to plus or minus the square root of 4 divided by 3. And now we can push this -1 to the other side to have our x. And that is x equals to 1 plus, because of this negative, it becomes positive on getting here. Then plus or minus, we can take the square root of 4, which is 2, and leave this here. And now, the value of our x there is 1 plus 2 divided by root of 3, or 1 minus 2 divided by the root of 3. And I do hope that you enjoyed this video. In my next video, I'm going to use the completing the square method to solve the general quadratic expression. That is, I'm going to use it to solve the general quadratic expression of this form to get what we know, what we call the quadratic formula. So please watch out for my next video, and thank you for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe to this channel. Bye.